Things are actually really good. I mean, like, I have been working on 2 shows with a theater company in the Bay Area. It's a children's theater company. And I was just so insanely busy, and I was trying to film some stuff, and I never got around to editing it. And at the same time that I had this completely cool but overly hour demanding job, it worked out that a bunch of stuff I had been planning to buy for the van started to slowly come together. And I've been living in this van for over a year. I've been doing YouTube for over a year, mind you, off and on, because I have a day job that's not YouTube. And when I think back to how I moved into this van with plastic bins and not really much, to be honest, and looking at where I am now, like, it doesn't impress a lot of people. Some people are like, hey, this is cool. Other people still feel like I look like a hobo. I wear my hobo badge proudly. And it's definitely not like an Insta van. And I don't think I'm ever going to have like an Insta van. Who knows though? You know, if I don't, die in the next couple of years, it could happen. I would love to keep moving up in this lifestyle, but just reflecting on where I was a year ago and looking at the things I have now, I'm very happy with myself and the skills I've learned sort of in the year plus that I've lived in this van without a fridge, without solar, basically charging things off of my cigarette slot while I was driving, or like having little tiny like power banks, and when I went to work, plugging them into walls so that I had power when I got back to the van. Like, I have made this lifestyle work, and it has at the very least allowed me to even out. That being said, a great part of my support over this past year has been having a YouTube channel and having people reach out to me, and me being able to build an online community through this channel. So I've been a bad YouTuber and I haven't been posting videos because I just got busy with like work and life and commitments, and making a good impression, which I hope I'm making with this theater company, was very, very important to me and to what I want to do in the long term. And so I've kind of been off the YouTube radar, sort of dedicating my time to that. That being said, I posted a Halloween photo from a company party from this theater company that I've been working with. And I want to talk about one of the replies I got to that, because it applies to this whole "I'm sorry for being a bad YouTuber" video. And this person meant no harm, but what they actually meant to be encouraging. But what they said was, "You need to get yourself together, Dawn. No shade. You look stressed out, girl. But don't live the van free life and keep stress on your back. You don't have no bills, no rent, girl. You should be living your best life. I think she meant I'd leave all the bull crap on the highway, be free and happy. F all that and let it go, period." Like I said, this comment meant well. But let's unpack this a little bit. She said I looked stressed in my Halloween photo. I was stressed because I was working a lot, but not stressed in the negative way of like, oh, I'm stressed, I can't deal with life. It was stressed in, I have a lot going on. I was exhausted, but I still wanted to participate in this company event because I like these people and I want to build positive relationships with these people. And sometimes as an adult, that means participating in stuff even when you'd rather go to bed, because on the long term, you want them to remember that you showed up and that you tried to engage with the group and the people. Whether you succeed or fail or not, I don't always do well with like trying to engage with people. But so, I do have high social anxiety, and you might be like, Dawn, you're on YouTube. What do you mean you have high social anxiety? When I get into, like right now I'm talking to a camera, I don't mind talking to a camera and people are going to look at it later. That's different than being in a room with people and being expected to sort of keep up small talk and I'm just not good at that. I tend to freeze up, and people don't tend to believe it, because when I'm in a situation like this where I'm trying to do something, I don't have social anxiety about that. I don't have social anxiety about the fact that however many people will click onto this video. I have a lot of social anxiety when it's like I'm walking into like a party situation and I don't know what to do with myself. So I might have been a little bit awkward and stressed at that party for reasons other than life is bad. I know a lot of people in van life are all about like, I want to quit my job and travel the world and blah, 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 blah. Realistically, I've known, one, I am not the type of person who is going to get a lot of hits on YouTube just for my cute face. So one of the reasons I started YouTube is because my channel was originally called Working Homeless. And I changed it because I stopped feeling homeless and I started feeling more houseless. But if you look at my first video, my very first video, I had this whole thing where I was going to do this whole thing about hashtag working homeless. And then I got really disconnected from that idea because homelessness is like a forced situation where you don't want to be in it. It's something you want to get out of. Now, part of me was like, I want people to see that people forced into living in their vehicles aren't all bad, drugged out people. But then it was the homelessness thing that I didn't feel. I knew people who were homeless, who were working and actively wanted to get out their situation. And as I began to transition into the van, which I considered my home, I wasn't that person anymore. So I disconnected from working homeless, but I've never pretended that I was in a position to just not work and go travel. Let's continue to unpack this. Traveling costs money. Gas costs money. Even if I was in a position of completely owning this van and I didn't have van payments, I would still need some sort of income. And I am under no delusions that I am in a position, even at my current subscriber base, that I could just make YouTube videos and survive. If the van was paid off, maybe. I acknowledge that I overpaid for my van. At the time, I was desperate and I had a decent down payment, and I knew I could get a van from a place that does sort of your job's your credit type thing. And that is how I got this van. I still have a payment on it, and I will for 8 months if I only pay the base amount. Now, if I'm able to get some extra money in, I can maybe pay it off a little bit faster. People are selling this exact fan, for about half of what I paid for it. Life happens. I needed a roof over my head. At the time, I didn't have half of what this van cost, and it was the only way I was going to get it. My van payment is cheaper than rent. So people can preach forever about what I could have got for that amount of money. It didn't matter. I made my choice at the point I made it. I made the best choice I could have made in that moment, in the only way I knew to resolve the situation. I wanted to get out of a car, which I also didn't own completely. I still had payments on that, and I was able to work out a situation where I was able to transition out of the car into a van. I wanted something big enough that I could put a bed in. That was my main goal, and I wanted something that was going to cost less than the rent payments in the Bay Area. So, the whole statement that I have no bills, no rent, and I should be living my best life, I do have bills. I consider my van payment my rent, and I am living my best life because I chose not to sell out to a job just for money. I was able to make enough money to continue living in this vehicle until a door opened at a company that I really, really wanted to work for. Now I'm in the door, and hopefully I can establish enough of a long-term relationship with them that I can get enough consistent contractual agreements that I can sort of relax about getting work. But I am not in a position to not work. In fact, when this contract ends around January, I need to be figuring out what my next income stream is going to be, and I need to be trying to put away enough money that I'm not in immediate panic on the day my last show closes if they don't have work right again for me right away, or if I need to start reaching out to other companies for work. I am not free. I am not one of these young millennials or one of these, well-to-do couples that were in a position to completely go digital and disconnected in their job. I still need jobs, and the easiest jobs you can get are restricted to a certain area, not you can just go anywhere and do them. Now, there are some flexibilities that I've been considering just so I can go on a couple of trips, but at the end of the day, I still kind of gotta be around my home base to be sure I have enough money to pay my bills and my rent, which is my van payment until this van is paid off. And like I said, it's cheaper than rent in this area. So even though my van is being sold at this moment, or even at the time that I bought it, which was a little over a year ago, for less than what I personally paid for it, this was the best decision and most accessible decision to me at the moment. So the comment bothered me a little bit because the whole point of my channel has been I am not the Instagram, van. I am not fully financial free, but I have found a way to live within my means in a way that makes me happy and still allows me to pursue my dreams. It has never been about this disconnect. This is going to be a really random video, by the way. I don't really like doing these straight stream of consciousness things, but I'm going to do it because of that particular comment and to sort of roll in sort of this idea of what my life is like because I live in a van. I realistically know I am not yet able to say, hey, I have a completely digital job, be that YouTube or something else. Like, I'm not there. I am not rent-free in a paid-off van where the only thing I have to do is make enough money for gas, food, and insurance. That would be the ideal situation I would like to get to, but I'm not there yet. I do have bills besides the van and the insurance. I have a phone, so therefore I have a phone bill. I have a couple of entertainment services I keep for myself. Right now I'm sticking with Hulu and Netflix. I kind of want Disney Plus, but I also kind of don't want to pay for another streaming service. What else do I pay for? I have credit cards I'm still paying down. I've been consistently paying them down for over a year, but they are not paid off yet. Every once in a while, I have to dip into them for emergencies. I took time off to go to RTR last year. I wasn't making any money then, ended up spending a lot of money in gas, ended up tapping back into credit cards that I was paying down, which is why there's a very low likelihood of me going to RTR this year. And it's not because it moved or because it's in a campground or because I'd have to break camp every day. It's the same reason I didn't go to the van build. I was curious about the van build, but once it cost money, it was going to cost money for me to not work. And then it was going to cost money to go. I respect the reasons. Jamie from Enigmatic Nomadics is another one of those big van things, had to charge, but I decided not to go because I have bills. And it just wasn't worth it to put myself in that kind of debt again. And again, I have opportunities to make money in January that would be broken up by the RTR. I'm really glad I went last year, because it seems like last year was the last time the RTR is going to be. If this year is proof of the pattern in the future, it seems like last year's RTR was the last time it was going to be a static event where you could camp at, whereas the 2021 isn't going to be a static event where you can camp at the event. It's going to be a come to the event and experience the seminars and then leave. And I'd be going more for the social aspect than the seminar aspect of it. And so I probably am not going at all. It's close enough I could change my mind and go down for a day, basically seeing if there's any seminars of interest. I'd have to like really push it and really have a couple heavy travel days, but as of now, I'm not planning on going at all. That being said, I have a lot of updates about my van that I want to share. Like I said, you can see the lights. Remember I told you I was going to replace my, that Coolio fridge, which unfortunately was a huge fail and a bad decision, and one of the many waste of money I've had since transitioning to this lifestyle. The Coolio was just not a good idea. Cooluli, I keep calling it Coolio, like the rapper. It's a Cooluli. Yeah, wasn't a great idea. As of now, it is not in the van. It's just been relocated to get it out of the van. So that is actually gone, and it has been replaced with a standard car fridge. I will reveal the brand, what it is, and how it's doing. It's practically brand new at this point. I've only had it a few days. I have 2 100 amp hour batteries now, and my solar panel is no longer hooked to the Max Oak Bluetti. It is now hooked to those solar panels. I still have the Max Oak Bluetti. I have opinions on it, and sort of its continued use and existence in my life and how I use it now that I don't keep it hooked to the solar panel, and now that it's not my main power source. So I have 2 100 amp hour batteries. They're hooked up to the solar charge controller, which is hooked to the 100 watt panel on my roof. I have a fridge running off of that battery power, even as I speak. And these lights, one of which used to be battery powered, also now run off of the battery power. So I hooked up a fuse box, and I also hooked up a battery maintainer, which I'll talk about later. It was my way of working around running off the alternator, basically because I don't know how to hook a battery to the alternator, and I don't know anybody who can help me. And so I got a battery maintainer, and I'll let you know how I'm using that in a future video. But something I would really like to learn is how to get my battery bank to also be charging off the alternator, but I'm not sure how to do it, and there's certain things I won't mess with, and I don't want to crack into the car's mechanics not understanding what I'm doing. So right now that's not the situation, but I am still getting a charge to the battery when I drive, and I'll talk about how I'm doing that in a future video. One of these sets of lights, and it's one of the reasons I have 2 remotes now, was originally battery powered, and I was able to convert it to USB power. So I filmed myself doing that, but that video is a little incomplete. I sort of need to edit that together in some way. So I've been filming stuff with the solar system. As I started to get components and things, I was piecing it together. Like I had everything but the batteries at one point, and so I did all the wiring. I was still waiting on my crimper, so I basically just set up the fuse box and the solar charge controller to just plug the solar panels in. And except I didn't have the crimpers for the solar panel. It was a whole thing. It was about 3 separate events that covered getting the solar system hooked up to the batteries. So like I set up the solar charge controller and the fuse block, and then I was waiting on the batteries to arrive, and while that was going on, I had those things set up, but I still had the solar just charging the Max Oak Bluetti 200 watt system, not the 1500. If I had the Max Oak Bluetti 1500, I wouldn't have bought the batteries that I bought, but I bought them and I have them now. And they're doing their job. And it surprised me, because all of it seemed confusing before I was touching components, but I'm a very tactile person. So as I start working with things, like, it makes sense. And it was crazy easy to get hooked up to solar. What I do have is, feelings now about power stations versus DIY systems. And there's good things about DIY systems, and there's good things about those all-in-ones. And I'm talking about the Bluetti, the Jackery, the Kodiak Energy, etc., etc. And I think there's good things about both, and I have thoughts on both, and what it was like to basically delve into a world that I was afraid of, because I was absolutely afraid I would burn down the van or kill myself because I didn't know what I was doing with wiring, which is interesting because I have messed with wiring before. I literally had to create little light bulb sockets for theater production, but I felt kind of protected by, like, I don't know. I felt really confident in what I was doing at that point. I've done stuff with lighting units and changing out plugs, but even still, that felt, I didn't really understand solar enough. And I tend to doubt myself more than is necessary sometimes. But it was actually fairly easy, and there's a bunch of simple concepts that will get you started. And there's still stuff I don't understand about the math and such, but I have, like I said, I have two 100 amp hour Mighty Max sealed lead acid batteries. I almost accidentally bought flooded, and then I got a refund on that, and then I made a little bit more money, and I decided to go for 2 batteries, because I'd heard it's better to get the extra battery than the extra panel. But yeah. So I'm doing pretty good on power right now with some issues that I'll talk about in a future video, but things are good. I've been a bad YouTuber, and I apologize for kind of disappearing, but there was just so much going on, and I really am hoping for a future with this company. When I first came to California and I discovered them, it was a company I really wanted to work for. And now I am working with them, and I just hope I can turn this into a long-term relationship. And when you find the love of your life, even if it's the work love of your life, you got to kind of throw your energy into that and making that relationship really long-term. YouTube is changing every day. It's changing its algorithm. It's making it harder for smaller creators to make a decent amount of money, especially just doing this. And outside of like doing a video like every single day, especially at my level, it's really hard to turn it into like sustainable income. And then I see people angry all the time because they're 100% depending on being a YouTuber to survive, and it just leads to all, with very few exceptions. There's some really great guys on YouTube. There's this guy named Andre Black Nerd who I'm addicted to watching, and I love like his good attitude. Reminds me a lot of Chrome, who also constantly has a good attitude. But like there's a lot of angry creators right now talking about how YouTube is screwing them over, and that's because their bread and butter is YouTube, and they want that independence, which I understand. But if the price of that independence is all this anger because YouTube is not a standard employer, and there's certain things you can't depend on when you're 100% depending on the platform, I just don't want that energy to become a part of me. And so like having a sustainable income source that is not YouTube while doing YouTube, and having the potential to turn that into a little bit of support, is important to me. But at the end of the day, I have to make enough money to pay my bills and my rent, which is my van payment, until I reach that point. And like my van payment isn't like, oh, I lost the van, I have somewhere to go. I literally have nowhere to go if I lose this van. You know, not really. I have some friends I could lean on for a little while, but at the end of the day, like that's a good way to lose friends, is to have to like be on their couch or bed forever. And me and a friend of mine, like, she wouldn't let me, like, be in the gutter, but at the same time, we know we drive each other crazy under each other's roofs. And, like, I am proud of this van. I may have overpaid for it. I may have had a lot of slip-ups with, like, buying the wrong things early on and having to rebuy things. But you know what? That's life. People do that in houses too. Like, they buy a 15-bedroom house and they're like, why am I in a 15-bedroom house? I'm a single person, or we're two adults who don't want to have children, and so we could have a smaller house. Or, like, you move into the big city thinking it's exciting and you overpay for months upon months, and then you're like, you know what? I actually hate big city living. And then you move to a small town and then you're really, really happy. Like, that is life. So there are things I've overpaid for transitioning into this life, and you know what? That's just life. What I have created and what I am proud of, even though I'm a bad YouTuber, is the fact that I created a sustainable life for myself, where I can make mistakes, where I've bought a couple of the wrong things, but it hasn't destroyed me. Like, that's just life. And life is decent right now. Good's a hard word. There are things I'd like to have that I don't have right now, but life is decent right now. And this van has been in a constant state of upgrade. It feels in such a good place now. It's definitely feeling homey. Like, when I'm in my space, I am home and I am happy and I am satisfied. And there are, like, so many people even living in houses that can't say that, you know. And right now, honestly, like, I'm in a parking lot of a 24-hour CVS, because it's around the corner from the theater, which is in Sunnyvale, California. And I pop over to the theater in the morning, and, like, everybody in my cast and my sound app, like they have to drive from Sunnyvale all the way back to, like, Oakland or Berkeley or even further out. Like, there's one person who lives in Antioch, and I get to live in Sunnyvale until the run at Sunnyvale is over, and then move to San Francisco and live in San Francisco, which I know is going to be a nightmare, but I'll deal with it till then, until that run is over. And then my other show's in Berkeley, so when the run for that starts again, because we have a couple of shows coming up in December. And so, like, I'll live in Berkeley for that week, and then I'll move to San Francisco for that weekend for the other show that I'm doing. And that, to me, is, like, it's so awesome. I mean, the biggest issue I have sometimes is, like, where am I going to park, like, right after the show? And sometimes I take a little bit of driving around, but I don't have to commute anywhere. I don't have to have a 4-hour or 5-hour commute. And the ability to choose that while I continue to pursue this career is super precious to me. And it feels like, you know, I really did reach the goals I set out to do. And the only question at this point is, can I make it last long term? And I hope so. So that's all I have for you tonight. I'm going to upload this video and I hope you guys enjoy. And I do plan to circle around to the videos I did about customizing my lighting, installing the solar system, and my fridge. I actually haven't shot a video about the fridge because, like I said, the fridge is brand new and I'm really enjoying having it. So see you guys later.